something to eat if you haven't already. All right, everyone, thank you so much for coming tonight. If you can hear me, clap once. There we go. Okay. My name's Rebecca Arnallo. I'm the Neighborhood Services Manager for Mayor Ed Gainey. Thanks so much for coming out tonight to talk about the city's budget. If we can go to the next slide, Sam. So just a brief overview of how tonight's going to go. We're going to do just some introductions of the city staff who are here tonight. Then go over some meeting norms in terms of how we hope you all will engage in the discussion tonight. Our OMB team will launch into the presentation about the operating capital budgets. We'll talk about next steps, and then we'll do some Q&A and public comment at the end. So let's do introductions to the team. As I already said, I'm Rebecca. I'm the Neighborhood Services Manager for the Mayor, and I'm going to start with Sam and have everyone introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Sam Wasserman, Communications Manager for the Mayor.
Hey, good evening. I'm David Hutchinson. I'm the Assistant Director for Capital and Asset Management with the Mayor's Office of Management and Budget.
Good evening, everybody. Jake Paulak, Deputy Mayor of the City of Pittsburgh and Director of the Office of Management and Budget.
Good evening. My name is Kyle Chimpalopoulos. I'm the city's Chief Economic Development Officer.
I'm Lisa Frank. I'm the city's Chief Operating Administrative Officer.
Thank you. Maria.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Maria Montano, and Mayor Gainey's Press Secretary.
Shout out to my Neighborhood Services team colleagues in the back who are still signing folks in, Jessica Farrell and Chrisera Johnson. Thanks to our police partners for being here tonight, Acting Chief Stan Grecki and Fire Chief Jones, and our Lieutenants Cunningham, and I'm so sorry. Watts. There we go. Thank you guys for being here. They're hanging out in the back because they have to be, they're on duty, they have to be ready to respond if needed, if something comes up, but just want to make sure you all know all input and questions are welcomed about everything in the budget tonight. And I'm sorry, Kim Lucas is also back there hydrating. Kim is our Director of Department of Mobility and Infrastructure. And then thanks so much to Diana and Daniel, our wonderful interpreters who are making sure you all understand the presentation tonight through interpretation services.
Rebecca, sorry. Eric Schultz, one of our capital budget analysts, is here too.
I'm sorry. Hi, Eric. All right, did I miss anyone? I always miss at least one person. Okay. Next slide, please. So just a few norms we ask everyone to abide by throughout the evening. We're gonna, talk about some complex things tonight, as we do at all public meetings, and we welcome your passion and energy. We just ask that we all show each other respect and remember that we're all in here in the spirit of wanting to serve our neighborhoods in the city. The OMB team is going to do the whole presentation. We're going to have kind of like a little mini Q&A session about halfway through the presentation. So if you have questions about the first part of the presentation, we'll just have you kind of do a show of hands, and we'll have you raise your question then. Then we'll go into the second part of the presentation. At the end of that, that's when we'll ask folks who pre-registered, indicating they want to ask a question or make a comment. Chrisera Johnson, my colleague, will call you up in groups of 5, so we don't have all of you standing in line all night. So she'll call you up in groups of 5. The microphone will be set up here. We do ask that in respect of everyone's time tonight that you limit your comment or your question to 1 minute. Once we get through all the folks who have registered to speak, we'll then ask for a show of hands from anyone who did not get a chance to register but who still wants to speak. Hear all of you all, and then we'll give the panel a chance at the end of the evening to do a round of responses to some of the comments and questions that we hear. Does that all sound good to everyone? All right. So with that, I'm going to hand the mic off to Deputy Mayor Paulak. Thank you all for being here.
Thanks, Rebecca, and good evening, everyone. Once again, thank you all so much for coming out tonight. I'm going to provide a brief overview of the way in which the city budget works so that everyone is sort of on the same, has all the same information and can have any questions about the way the process works answered before we get into your feedback. So with that, a little bit of information about the city's Office of Management and Budget, which administers the budget process on behalf of the mayor. We have two divisions with different teams in each. We have a management division that includes Chief Cintalopoli and Chief Frank, who assist the mayor in the day-to-day administration of city services and sort of daily operations, along with our procurement team, which handles the purchasing of products and services on behalf of the whole city. And then we have a budget team, some of them are represented here tonight, who help to develop and then manage and maintain the capital budget, the operating budget, and then our grants and other revenues. Next slide, Sam. So a critical point, I think, for everyone to understand as we get into tonight's conversation is the city has two budgets. It has an operating budget, which supports the day-to-day functioning of city government. That's where people's salaries are paid from. That's where we buy paper clips and staples from. Right? That's if you think about your household budget and blow it up to $600 million plus, that's what that budget covers. The capital budget is kind of our long-term budget for buying or improving the city's assets. So when we invest in a park or a building or something that we're going to pay money now that will exist and have value for a long time, we do that through the capital budget. The capital budget is primarily supported with borrowing, right? It's the same thing as sort of having a mortgage on your house or buying something like a car with a car loan. You know, we buy those things through the issuance of debt to invest in long-term fixed assets. So that's a little bit of the difference, right? Things that were sort of money in, money out in the course of a year, like salaries or supplies, is in the operating budget. Things that are of longer-term value and longer-term investment are in the capital budget.
Can you speak up a little bit, please?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me now?
Thank you.
Sorry. Okay, yeah, so this slide sort of recaps some of what I just said. The operating budget covers those routine activities, and the capital budget covers more major investments. Next slide, Sam. Here's a kind of a helpful illustration of that, right? On the left, you have a capital budget column, and on the right, you have an operating budget column. So we think about the fire bureau, right? When we buy a new fire truck, we pay for that with capital budget funds. We're going to have that truck for a while, maybe not as long as we hope, Chief, because they get a little wear and tear, but we're going to buy it this year and we're going to have it for a long time. On the flip side, the salaries for our firefighters and our fire chief who's in the back, looking very suave in his turnout here in this photo, are we pay for the salaries of the firefighters who go and fight the fires. So part of it is their long-term equipment and part of it is their time. That splits between the two budgets. If we're thinking about environmental services and refuse collection, when we buy new trash cans to put in our parks, we pay for that in the capital budget. But when we pay the salaries of the environmental service workers who pick up that trash, we pay them through the operating budget. Similarly, when we build a new spray park or other water feature, that's a capital expense because it's a long-term investment in city assets. But when we annually pay lifeguards for their time to provide those services at our pools, that's a capital project. Anything that costs less than $50,000 isn't eligible for the capital budget. That's another important distinction point. All right, so here's a quick quiz. There are 4 different things on the screen. If you can't see it, I'll describe them to you. And the question is, which budget would pay for them? So one of them is the Sheridan branch of the library. Another one is the Liberty Tunnels. Another is the Bog Station on the T. And the last one is Couples Field in Southside. So show of hands, who thinks that these assets are in the capital budget? Anyone? No? All right. Who thinks they're in the operating budget? Couple? All right, you're all wrong. It's a trick question. The Sheridan Library is not a city asset. It's from the Carnegie Libraries of Pittsburgh. The Liberty Tunnels are PennDOT. The Bog Station is PRT, formerly the Port Authority, and Couples Field is PPS. So the important thing we're illustrating here is on the next slide, which is that the city doesn't provide all of the public services that city residents use, right? There is some jurisdiction that we have. There's a role that our city municipal government plays, and then there are other things that are provided by other folks. The county, the state, the federal government, or other units of local government or nonprofits. So the city does not fund or support or pay for any services in our schools, either the buildings or the instruction, that's PPS. Transportation is done by Pittsburgh Regional Transit. Again, you might know it as Port Authority. They recently changed their name. Most health services are provided by the Allegheny County Health Department or the Department of Human Services. The jail is administered by the county. The courts are administered by all levels of government except us. There are other public safety response activities that are conducted by others. The Allegheny County has its own police force that does public safety enforcement in county parks and on other county property. They have Port Authority police who conduct public safety services downtown in some instances, etc. Water infrastructure is maintained by the Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authority, which the city residents own, but is administered and governed separately, and Alcosan, which is a joint project of the city and county. And then the parking authority is in charge of our parking assets. So you may have questions about many of those things when we get there. We're happy to answer them, but just understand you're not going to see any of the services listed here in our budget because we don't pay for them. We still work with those folks so we can try and answer your questions where possible. I just wanted to underscore that distinction. Next slide. I'll go through these quickly just so you're generally aware. The budget cycle really happens year round, and I apologize, this one's not that easy to see on the screen.
Still have to speak up.
Yeah.
Yeah? Is that okay?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
We may have to dim one of these lights so we can see the screen more, because the screen is very faint. Yeah. Okay. And you're talking a little bit too fast.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna make a little change to the projector to make it a little easier to see. No, please, it's not that.
We should do that. No.
There, is that easier to see?
Yeah, yeah.
And am I easier to hear now?
It's still kind of small.
Great.
Just keep that thing.
Yeah, this one's kind of small, so it's gonna be hard to see, but I'll talk you through it, which is basically that we are required by city law to pass annual operating and capital budgets by the end of every year. So, if it's New Year's Eve and we don't have a budget done, we're in trouble, right? But we basically start the process for the next year immediately after, in beginning to develop the mayor's priorities for the coming year and working with city departments and others to identify the priorities for the coming year. So we work on this year round, and right now we are in a very kind of unique period in that cycle. By law, the mayor is required to produce a preliminary budget proposal at the end of September every year, which we've done, and we're going to talk about some of the features of that later this evening. And then on the second Thursday of November, which this year is November 14th, I might have the day of the week wrong, but by mid-November of every year, the mayor has to make a formal introduction of his budget proposal to city council, and that's when the legislative process begins. So right now we're directly in the middle of that. We've produced a preliminary proposal based on feedback we've received from the public, and we're asking for you to check our work to tell us whether the things we've included in our initial proposal are the ones that actually align with your values and priorities and objectives, or if we've missed something, or you have other ideas. So that's why we're here tonight. This slide says the same thing slightly differently for the capital budget, so we can see this one. All right, so now we're talking a little bit more about the specific things that we do to plan for the capital budget, and for that, I'm going to turn it over to Assistant Director for Capital Budget, Dave Hutchinson.
Thank you. Hopefully you all can hear me in the back. I will try to speak closely and speak slowly, but I'm bad at both, so let me know. The capital budget pays for, like Director Pollack said, assets we're going to keep for a long time. As long as I'm not blocking the screen for anybody. So with our capital projects, a lot of them take multiple years, multiple phases to finish. So when we're planning the capital budget, we want to make sure that we're responsibly planning for all of the phases in the project. When we get proposals, they usually have multiple years. So this is an example of a proposal last year for Sheridan Park. The first column is 2022. They're asking for $2.3 million for some construction on the first phase. We are already paid for the first phase of design. 2023, they were asking for $300,000 for the second phase design. And then in 2024, they were anticipating closing out the project with $2.4 million in construction. We could front load all of that money into the first year of this project, which was 2021, but then those funds sit for a lot of the project timeline, right? We want to make sure the tax dollars are out in the community being spent, that you're experiencing the benefit of the taxes you pay. So what we do is we follow along with the departments and we schedule the money in the years that they need them for the phases that they need them. So the capital budget itself is really a bunch of these project phases kind of stacked up into each other. This helps us build out a 6-year capital improvement plan so that we can make really responsible decisions when it comes time to borrow money in the future. We have to make sure, excuse me, that we're meeting our debt obligations in the operating budget. So we try to be responsible and responsive to the departments and get them the money they need for the right phases. We also got some really great data from the summer. Did anybody here participate in the surveys we had? Nice. So we asked a bunch of different questions in the surveys. We asked about specific projects in 2 ways. We gave people the opportunity to provide us with ideas and locations for things that they want to see in their community. And this graph actually shows some of the responses that we've got on the districts for the projects that were requested. So as you can see, there's some difference in terms of prioritization with different communities and their participation rates. We're going to show you another map in a little bit that shows who actually replied to the survey and how we reacted to that. But this graph, which again, I'm sorry, it's hard to read, shows how priorities kind of shifted from years prior, from last year to this year. So we also asked people, in addition to specific project ideas you may have, in general, looking at this list of project types, what types of projects do you think need more attention in next year's budget? One big change you may have noticed is almost all the way to the right, our rec and senior centers. The blue line represents the 2022 amounts. So last year we got a lot of feedback that people wanted to see improvements in our rec and senior centers. We put a lot of money into our rec and senior centers, especially with our ARP funds that we got in the last 2 years. This year you may notice the lighter bar is 2023. We had understandably a pretty big spike in bridges. People with the Front Hollow Bridge understand the criticality of investing in bridges, and we got a lot of that feedback this year. So this is the map I was referencing earlier. The darker spots are higher concentrations of survey responses. The lighter sections are lower concentrations of survey responses. What do you notice about the light spots on that map? And this is a map of the city. Sorry, it's a little bit hard to read.
Yeah, where's Homewood at?
Homewood's right here.
Okay, so it's basically white, it's not even showing. Can I say something to that? About 85 to 90% of our community does not have access to your surveys that you guys provide. So is there a way that you guys can go like door to door or reach the public in a better way?
Thanks, Dave. I'll take that one. So what we're trying to illustrate here, sorry, dealing with my cord. What we're trying to illustrate here is what we learned from this survey is exactly what you're speaking to, Ricco, right? That there were pretty big disparities in where folks responded to the initial survey. So we intentionally scheduled these sessions in the places that are the most blank on the map, right? That tonight we're here in Homewood in the middle of the sort of empty space that's furthest to the east. And then we've also got sessions scheduled over the weekend in the Hill District, which is that spot in the middle, and the West End, which you can't really see, it bleeds off the edge of the map. But we had the same reaction when we saw the responses to the surveys, and so where we selected to have these community listening sessions was a direct response to the fact that participation was lighter in some parts of town. Now, as we move forward to next year,
We haven't even really reached out to the people in the community. That's why they're white.
right, I don't disagree with you, sir. The point was, we haven't done a good enough job reaching out to folks in these neighborhoods. And then, again, that's why we're here tonight and why we selected these locations for these listening sessions. We're also gonna learn from that experience for next year as we design our survey collection process, so that hopefully we don't see a map that has this wide of
I'm gonna
a
walk
variation.
around the picture because it's not empty
Yeah.
in Homewood area, so I'll walk it around together. Just one thing, so the Homewood area and even on the West End as well, a lot of those areas actually do have survey responses. The projector isn't showing it properly. It was less survey responses than other parts of the city, which is why we want to see increased participation and why we want to meet everyone here where they're at and everyone in those communities where they're at. So I'll walk around the map so everyone can see the actual shading, but I can assure everyone that this area did have at least some participation, and it's not empty as it looks.
How are you guys going about, this is just a question, as a community concerned resident, how are you guys going around saying for the survey to get the people that you need to reach? Because as I look around, I get emails from people about streetlights and stuff and no one's here. No one knew about this meeting unless you seen the news today. We knew it was coming, but how do we get this information out to the residents? So they could get here. There's people that really wanted to be here but had no idea, and I told them last minute.
Okay. I think we're happy, I mean, so we did a fair amount of work and we are continually learning and improving on how to most clearly and effectively communicate some of these opportunities.
With a community that's in a community that's dealing with certain people that are of a certain age group and a demographic, in order to reach these people in these areas, like you said, we gotta meet them, we gotta get some more ways of this flyers and put them out in their own businesses in the area. So the business owners and everybody else can know about this budget that's about to come through, because each time I come to this meeting, and I don't mean to be rude, it seems to be, it's getting a little wider and wider. So the people in the neighborhood should know about this. We've been here all our lives, and we're about to be tricked out of our neighborhood. So how can we do this to let people know? I know the city don't rock with me, but how can I get this information out to my people in a timely fashion that want to come?
So,
And I'm not coming here to argue, I'm speaking on account of the community of concerns. So I know I can get people to come if y'all give me the information. Send me an email, I ain't on the email list no more, somebody took me out. But can I get the information so I let the community know?
Yep.
That's all I want to know.
no, I completely appreciate what you're saying and actually agree with what you're saying. And I think most of the city staff, if not all the city staff here, also agree with what you're saying. So, and part of what you'll see in the operating budget proposal, actually for next year, expands some of our capacity to do that exact type of engagement work. So the neighborhood services team is currently 3 people, myself, Jessica, and Chris Sarah, who are in the back doing registration. So it is our job to do engagement to all 90 of our neighborhoods about everything that's going on.
Because younger people, and I'm learning this from working at the college, younger people aren't using email.
Right.
The way I can communicate with my students,
Right.
I have to text them.
And so
you
we
guys can
did
get
do some door-to-door flyering about those budget surveys, but we definitely didn't do anywhere near the level of flyering that we would like to be doing. We would like to flyer all of our neighborhoods. So we're working on expanding
I'll tell you, for
the,
every business, if somebody.
let me finish.
All right.
So we are working on expanding the capacity of the city to do that exact type of work, because we agree with you that we should be meeting people where they're at. We should be going to senior centers, we should be going to senior high rises, we should be flyering door to door. We did some door to door flyering, but only that our time and capacity allowed. So I want to now, Chris Sarah, if you could come on up, and we're going to do kind of the first round of Q&A about what we have shared so far about the budget process. We want to hear your questions about the way the city does the budget. After we get those questions, we're going to present about what's actually in the 2023 budget proposals. So, and then we'll do another round of input on what you hear is in those proposals. So what I'm going to do on these flip chart sheets is take notes so that you all see your questions and comments captured, so that you know that we'll be taking those back to the office and making sure we have them on record as we continue to improve this process and how we engage you all. So if we could get
I had a very important question. I need to know, how is it done with the other community neighborhoods in the city, has all the dark greens, and how was they notified about this? Seems like y'all got a lot of response from them and not from my side of the town.
I want to review our meeting norms again. I'm going to review our meeting norms again. If we can go back to that slide, please. Let's see a show of hands from everyone who wants to ask a question about what we have just shared. Great, that's great. Chrisera Johnson is going to call folks up, and we're going to hear from you one by one. We're going to capture your questions up here, and then we'll do a round of responses. We ask that you hold your comment or your question until you have the mic. We're going to conduct this meeting with that meeting norm, and we appreciate you all joining us in keeping this meeting organized and respectful. So Chrisera, why don't you go ahead and get started with the first round of questions.
Good evening, everyone. How are you all tonight? Good. How are we doing tonight? Good. All right, I like to hear that. Thank you. So I would like to, before we get into this, I want to reiterate some of our meeting norms. And so the first one I want to say is we want to make sure that we're giving everyone respect. And with that, we want to be respectful of each other's time as well. This is not going to be our only time where we're going to be receiving questions. We're just going to receive questions right now over what we just spoke about. We will, if you have any other questions, we will have time to have questions over the entire preliminary operating and capital budget. And I would like to thank everyone for coming out here tonight. So, being that I am, being that we have some challenges with this wire, I'm going to ask a few people to just line up in the middle or on this side. Do we have enough room on the side?
Right in
the middle. All right, we're going to ask whoever has questions to just to line up in the middle.
I have a question. So I saw the 2022 and the I have a question. I saw the 2022 surveys that went out. Are you all writing the budget based on that survey that went out, or the 2023 summer survey that you compared it to? How are you writing the budget and now? And as the budget already began to be in filtration?
Are we answering questions now?
No, we're going to go through all the questions.
All right, so we're going to write them down first, and then we're going to review some of the questions and answer. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to write the questions down, and then we're going to give our panelists an opportunity to answer them after the questions are asked.
Okay, my question is basically the same. The money that you're putting out for the budget is already out now. So anything that we ask for, we can't add it to that budget for our community. And a comment. The comment is, when you want our votes, you get to our doors.
Thank you.
What was her question?
She wanted to know if it is too late to already input, what is it? Add to
the budget, anything that we need in Homewood.
Okay, so her question is, she wants to know if it's too late to add things like requests to the operating and capital budget.
Hello, everybody. I have two questions.
First question is, I would like to know, is there a way that Homewood community members can be included in the process of reaching the members in our community since there's such a disadvantage? My second question is, what is the 2021 to 2022 percentage of the survey rate so we can get exact numbers? Because with it showing up as light as possible, that's basically saying that no one is responding.
I was just wondering if there were any representatives in the city that could actually talk about what's in the budget. Somebody that would be willing to sit down and just kind of go page by page about what the budget is entailing. That way we can have a better understanding of it. If there's somebody that wants to do that, I'm more than happy to coordinate. Thank you.
Was there a question?
She wanted to know if there was anybody from the city that would be willing to break down the operating and capital budget page by page so there could be a better understanding for community members.
First of all, I want to thank y'all for coming out to our community tonight. I want to thank them for coming out to our community tonight because this is like the second time I've had an opportunity to come. But I got a suggestion because I know everything is new. And my suggestion is to give each council person a sign-up sheet in addition to the flyers that you're going to make. And then that way, if you sign us up for the email, we won't miss anything coming up or that we need to know about. And I want to thank you for inviting us. Thank you.
They just doing their job.
My name is Andre Young, and my question, I need to have a statement before I give the question. The 9th Council District has the largest number of vacant and abandoned lots in this community. They're owned by the URA and they're owned by the City of Pittsburgh. When we cut these lots and manicure these lots, it changes the attitude of the community. It changes the attitude of our young people because they no longer have to walk through abandoned and overgrown lots. Is there a possibility that the city can put more money from the capital budget into maintaining and land care to take care of these vacant lots? If they could, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for watching this video of Pittsburgh Events. To watch this video again or any other video from Pittsburgh Events, you can go to the YouTube channel. It's 18 Ricco. It's youtube.com/18RICCO. Again, thank you for watching, and you can check out this video and any other video from Pittsburgh Events and many other videos that didn't make it on TV.
I can talk loud.
I need
So
it so
my
I
quick
can't
question.
hear. I can't hear without the mic.
Oh, you can't?
No.
Anyway, my question was to ask, as far as the lighting, I know everyone knows from years ago, before Gainey became mayor, so I'm not saying Gainey, I'm saying as a collective, are we gonna work on the lighting in Homewood? I had a situation, we got Hamilton fixed. I got Duquesne Light to come out, I got them to come out fix the lights. Kelly Street, Bennett Street, pitch black. In December, these months, it's even darker. Whatever it is, what can we do to light the community up? That's another way to get the elders to come out. They're not coming out dark. So is we going to put any of this money into our lightings in Homewood? That's all I want to know.
Thank you. I would like to thank everyone. I'm going to pass this to our Deputy Mayor, Jake Pollock.
Thanks, Chrisara. So just real quick, I'm gonna hold the last two questions for a second because we're gonna, after we address people's questions about the process, then we're gonna get into their specific comments and recommendations about what's in the budget. So some of the questions that were raised there are answered in that next phase of the presentation. But on the questions about how the budget works and what's included in it, the first one was, is the budget crafted in response to the survey responses? And the answer is yes. we were showing the 2022 responses next to the 2023 responses, just so that everyone can see the ways in which folks' feedback shifted year over year. But we drafted our 2023 budget proposal based on the survey responses that we received this summer in 2023. So the feedback we got this summer played a role in informing the budget that we published this fall.
That means Homewood is not included.
Well, so two responses to that. One, I understand your point, and that's again exactly why, having received those survey responses and seeing that variation, we're coming here tonight to talk about it, and I'll get to that sort of point you're just making right now in the next question.
Was Homewood included? Yes, that's the question. Was Homewood included?
What included in the budget?
Yes. You said you surveyed. My number one question I asked that because you all based it off of the 2022 survey.
No.
We did not. You just said you did.
The 2023 survey. We based it on the 2023 survey.
That's not here yet.
Right. You just said that you're writing the new 2023 budget based off the survey, which shows that Homewood was not responsive, meaning Homewood is not included on the new budget proposal. That's why I asked that. I'm sorry. I'm only speaking loudly. I want you to be able to, I'm not.
No. I understand why you're speaking up.
That means that Homewood BRUSHTON community is not included.
Right, and what I'm saying is, which is exactly why we're here now tonight, to address the fact that the survey responses.
So that means, but they're not going to.
The budget's not final. The budget is not final.
Are they going to put,
let's be honest here, y'all.
Are
they going to put the information you receiving tonight in that budget?
Yes, that's why we're here. The reason we're here is that this is a preliminary.
It would be a little pointless to do this if you are not.
Correct. The budget is not final until mid-November. So seeing that the responses were light in some areas relative to others in the preliminary survey, we scheduled this round of input in order to get additional feedback so that the final version could include that input. I'm sorry if I wasn't clear about
To
that.
add a little time for Homewood BRUSHTON community and work together and try to do so. I mean, you can use CCA for another meeting. I'll help y'all so we can do a survey with rural people.
Who really lives in the neighborhood? Because a lot of people in here are not from the neighborhood. So a lot of these people are working in here. And I'm guaranteeing you, most of these police officers in here ain't from the neighborhood. I'm guaranteeing you about 2 rows of them aren't from the neighborhood. So with that, if we break that down, JP, that's less than half of the room. So with that being said, why don't we set up another date and time, give us a little bit of time so we can do a real survey for the people who really live in the community. Because what it looks like, JB, and I like you as an individual, you and I have had conversations, what it looks like is you all are keeping us locked down, captive, in a cage, and you all don't want to do nothing about it. Because if you really want to talk about it, I think back off what Mr. Young said. These houses and these, I can drive up and down and I can see about 30 houses on one block. That's bad. You all ain't getting nothing. When I call down to the city, they tell you, hold on. But I watch on Zoom, our city council and his group of people pushing them and selling them off on Tuesdays and Wednesdays every day like they hotcakes. All I'm saying is I'm starting to feel animalistic, and I'm feeling like that rat in the cage. Y'all pushing our back up against the wall. With us not being a voice in the community that we pay taxes in, we send our badass kids in, and we come up and down these streets, and people shooting and killing our people left and right, JB. You gotta be a little more patient with the community, baby.
So Sam, all I would say is when we get into describing what is actually in the budget proposal, you will see some of what you're speaking to there reflected.
But can we get a little length? Can we get a little, what we're asking for is, I think if I'm saying it right, if we can get a little bit of time, so we can do an actual.
Can we just jump to the budget?
Tell her speak up if she got something to say.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, can we get a little bit of time so the people who really and truly make an impact in this community can really and truly vote? Because I didn't hear about this meeting until today, when I got on the website, and that to me is a little shocking when you guys are just asking for this little bit of people. Everyone who's got a 15208 zip code, raise your hand, please. One fountain, I know, but you see what I'm saying, JP? Come on, JP.
So Sam, I'm Amber, hold on a second. I'm gonna finish answering the questions about the process, and then we're gonna talk about what's in the budget, and then we've got plenty of time to talk about those specific things. But let's finish talking about what's in the budget.
All right, we're going to continue the presentation.
I'm sorry, JP, we can hear you, man. Say it again.
All I'm saying is, I'm gonna finish answering people's specific questions about how the budget works. And then we're gonna get into a discussion of what is and isn't in it and take feedback there. So I just wanna hold any of those other questions until we finish answering those questions we've already received.
Okay.
All right. So the next question is what we were just speaking about, right? How do we include additional voices in the engagement? Again, that's the purpose of tonight's meeting. That's the purpose of the series of meetings we're having right now. It's an evolving process and something we're continuing to work toward. But that's the very reason we're having this meeting today, which is the first time that there's been a round of budget engagement in this window between the September budget and the November budget. I'll also add that we had a pretty significant increase in survey responses everywhere this year, although bigger in some places. Can someone from the city help us better understand what's in the budget? Great news. That's the next part of tonight's presentation where we talk about what's actually in the proposal, so we'll be getting there in a second. Again, I'm gonna hold on the question on vacant land maintenance because we're gonna be talking about that in the next phase of the presentation. Same with lighting, again, that comes up in the next phase, so I just want to hold that for now. We will answer them, but I want to stick with the questions from the first phase. And I think everything else here came up in the context of our back and forth. So probably the best thing to do right now is to get into a summary of the budget proposals, talk through those, and then take your questions, comments, and suggestions about them. So we can move to that section of the presentation. Sam.
Mr. James. Can you give us the numbers? Numbers don't lie, so we want to know the exact.
That's next. That's next, Ricco.
Can you clarify something really quickly? So we were actually part of the committee that helped put this together, one of those disenfranchised areas, which I live in Homewood.
You have to speak. I can't hear you. Can you speak up a little?
Here, I'll stand. I'm small, but I got a voice, y'all. Give me a second. So we were part of the group that helped put this together in this area. I work for the Black Women's Policy Center. So we are well aware of what that light area looks like and how many people, did the survey and everything. I just wanted you to clarify a little bit that this meeting is not just for the Homewood area. It's for disenfranchised areas around us. That'll be East Liberty. That'll be all those light areas that y'all see around Homewood.
So just to summarize what you said and to clarify, right? We have 3 meetings this week. Tonight here, Saturday in Sheridan, in the West End, and Sunday in the Hill District. All of those meetings are open to everyone, and the purpose of those meetings is to hear from anyone who has a point of view on the budget, and in particular those whose voices weren't heard in the first round. We picked those 3 locations because they're areas where the survey responses were lowest to make it as accessible as possible for people from the places where we got the lowest number of responses, but they're open to everyone.
They're the lowest, but there's still areas around it that are also extremely low. The only reason I wanted us to clarify that is because if we pull that map number back up again, you'll see all the areas clustered.
Yeah, you're I'm sorry, I don't want to pick up, but you're correct. It's not about it's about both the neighborhood specifically where the meeting is held and the areas around it that also have low response rates.
The reason I'm mentioning that though is because while we were able to pull 3 of these in, that's still not enough. People from, Larmer or people from East Liberty might not be able to make it there. I know personally, personally, one of the people who went to door knock today only door knocked in Homewood. I wouldn't have known that if I were not on the committee to help get this together. What I'm saying is all the really dark blue areas, they all had some sort of meeting. They were really close back to back. Why did it take so long for us to get meetings in these disenfranchised areas?
I want to clarify, there were this meeting, the meeting on Saturday, and the meeting on Sunday are the only in-person meetings of the entire process.
Right,
we would have done some in-person meetings in the spring, but at that time, the COVID situation wasn't where it is today, right? So there were virtual citywide meetings at that time where folks were invited to participate from wherever they were. And I would agree with you, right, that process led to higher response rates in some places than others, which is what we're trying to address with having this additional round of community conversations right now. It's not perfect. It will our goal is, as with everything else, to continually get better. We learned a lot from that first round in the spring that will change how we do next spring. We're learning a lot from this round that will help us improve that next fall. But we saw in the data a clear pattern that we felt we needed to address, which is why we hosted these meetings.
You can't do your budget. We're not even included in the budget. You can't do a budget, that whole budget has to change citywide. Citywide, we're going through this, you have to change their own budget around because Homewood area, the whole area, around East Hills, all around Lincoln, everything, haven't put their survey in, haven't put nothing in there. So your survey, you're saying you're going over citywide. We haven't participated, so you got to change that whole survey.
So let me walk you through what's in the budget, and you can see it, and we can talk about it. And then we can take comments and feedback based on that, because I think that there are many investments that we're preparing to make through this initial proposal that address some of the needs and concerns that you have, and then we'll take feedback and comments on it. Yes, changes can still be made. That's why we're doing this tonight. So
how do we make
Sam, hold your question. Just hold your question till the end. Let me get through the next phase of the presentation. I promise you, we'll stay and listen. I'm here all night. I just want to get through this because I think some of the things you're going to ask are going to be answered before I'm done. And then if I miss something, we can add it then. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So at the beginning of the process, Mayor Gainey listed 3 areas of priority with some sub-priorities under that for what he was asking the public to respond to and what he was asking city departments to submit in terms of their proposals. Those fell into, as I said, 3 categories: safe neighborhoods, welcoming communities, and thriving people. In the context of safe neighborhoods, we were looking at ways to invest in our infrastructure, right? These are some of the same things we're hearing about tonight: street lights, lights in parks, streets, sidewalks, curbs. Increased investment in housing, in particular high quality, affordable housing, which we're addressing in this budget in a significant way. Ways to improve our environment, and through the environment, our health. So air quality, water quality, and health outcomes for city residents. And lifelong learning, meaning opportunities for education, be that for children or adults or seniors through the city's recreation systems. Under welcoming communities, we were looking to emphasize resident empowerment, cultural celebration, and social fulfillment. So all this, many of the same things we're talking about here tonight, right? The real back and forth of the process, the opportunity to have your voice heard and to see your needs and desires reflected in the way the city does business. And under thriving people, economic mobility, physical mobility, critical communities, and equity. So economic mobility is what it sounds like, opportunities for good jobs, good housing, opportunities to improve your economic condition. Physical mobility meaning improving how we get around, again, back to sidewalks, streets, the ways in which the city's infrastructure supports public transportation. We don't run public transportation, but we can help improve it. Critical communities meaning those who are facing particular and significant challenges, folks suffering from addiction, suffering from homelessness, social consequences that we need to find ways to provide dignity and respect to our neighbors. And equity, of course, meaning that the ways in which these investments are distributed reflects history and historic marginalization. Next slide, Sam. All right, I don't need to spend much time on this one. This is just an overall picture. This is essentially for the business folks in the room or folks who are on their own business. This is our balance sheet. Essentially, it shows the city's projected revenues, and the next one will show expenditures for the next few years. This one shows expenditures and transfers. I think the important point to make here is simply that we do have a balanced budget and a strong financial position, but there are a couple of tough years ahead of us. Next year, go back, Sam.
Can you stay right here?
Yeah. Next year, 2023 is good. 2024 is good in terms of our overall financial health. 2027 is good, but we have some challenging economic years in 2025 and 2026. In those 2 years, so at the end of 2024, the funding support from the American Rescue Plan, that's the federal stimulus money that goes to cities and states, goes away, right? And so we lose that financial support. At the end of 2026, we pay off some of the lingering, long-standing debt that the city took out while it was in financial oversight under Act 47. Once both of those things have happened, the financial picture is pretty good, but for 2 years in the middle, when we've lost the federal support but haven't yet paid off the debt, our finances get a little tight, right? So there are 2 years that we have to pay particular attention to in ensuring that we can maintain a balanced budget. And that is the main restriction that applies to all the decisions we have to make, because we have to pass a budget that is balanced not just for next year, but for the next 5 years under state and local law.
What was this slide before this? I'm sorry, because you went real
The
fast
revenue.
past that slide.
Yeah, this is the revenue slide. So this just shows the money coming into the city.
I know, that's what I want to see.
We should have got a printout of
Look,
it.
this is available on the city website.
Yeah, all of this information is also in the budget document, all of which is publicly available. We're just summarizing it here, but this all is fully public and available, and we can talk.
The link is gonna be on the last slide
We-
tonight.
Yeah.
No, we need that link in hand. They can't see it back there, y'all. Come on.
We'll make sure that everybody has that information. It's already public, and there's no problem ensuring that you have an opportunity to look at it.
There's a big problem in y'all budget right here.
Go
I
ahead.
know how to read
2 slides.
that.
Okay.
And it has nothing to do with this community.
This one just reiterates the point that I was making earlier, that we kind of take a one-time dip in revenue at the end of 2024 that we then rebound from over the next 2 years because of the end of the federal support.
Excuse me, I have a question. You say Act 47, we came at Act 47 years ago, so why are we still paying for it now?
The question was, and it's a great question, it's a great question, why are we still paying for Act 47 now? The reason is that during Act 47, the city borrowed money, and when we borrow money, we borrow it for usually 30 years at a time, right? So the money that we borrowed during Act 47, we're still paying off. Just as if you took out a car loan 10 years ago, you might still be paying for it now, or took out a mortgage 10 years. So we're no longer in Act 47 oversight, but the financial consequences of the time we spent in financial oversight haven't rolled off our books yet.
So the last administration left us in a mess.
It's no
He left us in a mess.
it's no one administration or one period's fault, right? We entered Act 47 a long time ago, and we've been working our way out of it for a long time, so.
Thank you for watching this video of Pittsburgh Events. To watch this video again or any other video from Pittsburgh Events, you can go to the YouTube channel as 18 Ricco. It's youtube.com/18RICCO. Again, thank you for watching, and you can check out this video and any other video from Pittsburgh Events and many other videos that didn't make it on TV.
This one shows the last point I was making, which is just that at the end of 2026, we pay off a big chunk of debt, and that helps a lot resolve the question I was just mentioning. Next slide. The next few slides just show the ways in which the city revenue comes in. So over 75% of total revenue comes from taxes, and then slightly less than 25% comes from other sources. That's when people pay license fees, like pay a permitting fee or a rental fee for a park shelter, things of that nature. This one shows the proposed spending by category. So the vast majority of what we spend as a city is on public safety. That's not just police, that's police, fire, EMS, animal control, co-response services. The next biggest category is human resources. That includes the salaries of city workers, so not particularly surprising in this context. The cost of public works and city council and the controller's office also factor in here. In the capital budget's broken up across a couple of sources, some of which are bonds, so money that we continue to borrow to pay for long-term investments, which is pay-go, which are funds that we transfer from the operating budget to the capital budget to pay for things basically with cash. CDBG funds represent a sizable but ever shrinking portion of our budget, so that the level of support we receive from the federal government for core services has been cyclically going down over the past few years, and so we're having to find ways in which to address that growing, or that shrinking amount of federal support. And then other sources include grants or other special revenue categories. Hold it to the end, we'll get to it. Okay, so now an overview of the budget itself. First, looking at the operating budget, our proposed operating budget is $657 million, which is an increase from last year of about $45 million. It remains balanced and remains in compliance with the two things that we need to stay in compliance with under state and local law, which is that we have to have more than 10% of our budget in our savings account in case of an emergency, and we need to spend less than 12% of our budget on paying off our debt. So we're able to preserve that for this year and the next 5 years in this proposal. In addition to all the things that the city is currently doing, so the services that we provide now, which would stay the same, these next few slides give overviews of the things we're adding money to, so the things we're spending more on or proposing to spend more on next year than we have before. One of those is a pretty big increased investment in the ability of the Department of Public Works to provide basic services like snow removal in the winter, and to Mr. Young's question, lot maintenance in the summer. So we're proposing to add 15 new drivers, 41 more laborers, and the necessary equipment for them to spend a much greater share of their time in the winter clearing our streets and doing so faster, and in the summer clearing our lots and addressing the negative consequences of overgrowth on vacant lots. So we're making a pretty big increased investment in that. It's actually about $4 million, give or take.
Why do we have to spend money when we just took on a contract with NDOT to
So,
look at review for the next 3 years?
Can you just hold that question to the end? Happy to answer, but I just want to get through the summary. We're also adding 6 more paramedics to our Bureau of EMS to improve response times for folks in medical emergency situations. We're making significant upgrades to the in-vehicle cameras for the police to ensure that the data that we're collecting from those cameras is easier to access and manage for the sake of accountability, transparency, and safety of both the public and our officers. We're investing in more rescue equipment for flooding. Flooding is an increasing problem in our entire region. Folks in this community are probably most familiar with that on Begley Run, but it happens everywhere in the city, and it's a real problem that we need to be prepared for. We're adding an investigator to our Office of Municipal Investigations to improve the safety and welcomingness of our workplace for city employees by having someone dedicated to investigating allegations of discrimination, harassment, and retaliation. And we're investing funds in a new comprehensive plan to develop a forward-looking planning process around our ecology, economy, and our buildings. Further, on the safety front, we're also making a pretty significant increased investment in our Department of Mobility and Infrastructure, which does transportation projects for the city, to focus more on bridges. That's the biggest thing that we saw in the survey response in terms of a shift. Folks are more understandably focused on the ways in which we respond to those needs, as well as landslides and the continuing problem that they pose in neighborhoods across the city.
Excuse me, did you, on the last one you just said up about for the police and the cameras, would you make that a high priority to put cameras by the shot spots? By the shot spots, cameras right with them.
If you could hold that question till we do the Q&A, I'm happy to address it, but I just want to keep moving.
When they get there.
All right. Next one, Sam. In terms of investments in welcoming communities, we are dedicating funds. This one's a little complicated, but I'll just sort of walk through it. Funds for what's called a disparity study. So under federal law, the city needs to base its goals for the inclusion of women-owned businesses and minority-owned businesses in our purchasing of supplies and services on something called a disparity study, which tells us the the nature and sort of scale of the barriers for those businesses in the marketplace. If we don't have a disparity study that tells us what the gap is, how much harder it is to do business as a black-owned business or a woman-owned business or a black woman-owned business, then our procurement choices could be subject to lawsuit and thrown out, right? So we need to update our market assessment of the barriers to minority-owned businesses and women-owned businesses in order to have the most up-to-date standards and goals for that inclusion. Our current study was done in the 90s. It's almost 30 years out of date at this point. And so we need to do a fresh version of it to ensure that we can continue to support that program. It's a federal requirement, not our choice that we have to do a study in order to set those goals, but we need to do it in order to make sure that our goals are current. We're implementing a new testing system in our fire bureau to eliminate unnecessary barriers to women who want to become firefighters. We have a historically low number of women in the fire service. We want to improve that. We found ways in which our current testing by national standards is discriminatory, and so we want to fix that with a national best standard for how to change the way we do that testing. We're reorganizing code enforcement to increase the number of inspectors available to monitor vacant property. This again goes back to Mr. Young's question earlier, that we want to spend more or change the way in which we're allocating the time of our code inspectors so that they can spend more time looking at, inspecting, and addressing blight issues on vacant land. And we are moving things like our Office of Special Events and our park rangers to the Department of Public Works to increase the focus on community-driven programming and events. And then adding staff to improve our enforcement of litter problems and legal dumping. And then on driving people, we're creating a new internship program for PPS students to understand and gain access to opportunities for city jobs, starting with doing internships with city departments while they're in high school so that there's a clearer pipeline from a PPS high school degree to a job in the city workforce. Creating a real estate unit to manage the way in which we move property, again, to address questions of longstanding vacant land. Adding talent recruiters to the Department of Human Resources to proactively seek out diverse candidates for city jobs. Expanding the staffing and capacity in zoning and PLI to do a better, faster, and more effective job at handling building permit requests and other requests for permits to do work on your property, whether as a resident or as a business. New position in parks to focus on youth sports and the role that that plays in providing productive, healthy opportunities for city youth. Really, that's as much as anything else, a violence reduction strategy and linked to our plan for peace around violence. Improving the way in which we do hiring in DPW and promotions within DPW to make it more reflective and to provide new opportunities to longstanding DPW employees for advancement. Increasing the number of environmental services staff, so those are the folks who do refuse collection, pick up trash and recycling, to address staffing shortages there and prevent injuries. It's by numbers one of the most dangerous jobs in the city because the number of injuries that folks who do that work is the highest. It's also one of the most diverse parts of city government, right? So ensuring that we're not asking folks to overextend themselves and risk injury is an important priority for us. And last but certainly not least, growing significantly the annual transfer from the city budget to the Housing Opportunity Fund to invest more in affordable housing options for the city. So we would gradually increase that amount from a current $10 million a year to $2.5 million a year next year and for the few years after that, and then to $5 million a year starting in 2026. I'm sorry. Oh, I maybe said the numbers wrong. So it's 10 million now. We will be growing it to 12.5 for a few years, and then growing it to 15 in the years after that. So it's an increase of 2.5 for a few years, and then an increase of 5 further out. But the total is 10 now, 12.5 for a few years, and then 15 after that. In the capital budget, we're expanding investment in paving and traffic calming projects. This is the thing that would probably get requested most citywide, including in this community and others. In terms of capital investment, more street paving and the installation of more things like speed bumps, or other things that slow traffic down and make our streets safer. So we're increasing our investment there. Continued rehabilitation of some of our existing recreational facilities, ball fields, senior centers, recreation centers. We're continuing to invest in that improvement. That was a top ask in the 2022 survey. We've done a lot of work there already, but a lot of those projects are continuing, so we're continuing to put the money in to get those projects done. Replacement of breathing equipment for fire. So our firefighters are currently using 10-year-old air tanks and masks that are about 2 generations behind the current technology. We're replacing those. Arguably, we should have done it a while ago.
We got 10-year-old kids dying every day, JB.
Sam, just hold it to the end. You have your time.
You're talking about stuff that's not going to help the community that we're addressing. I mean, here's what I want to ask you. Now, why does Ed Gainey, don't everyone jump on me at the same time, you got 30 lawyers. Why is his personal assistant making $120,000? Let's talk about that, because some of that money could go into this hood.
Sam, we're almost done.
Sam,
we're almost done.
Sam, do me a favor. Sam, do me one favor. Just do me one favor. Let me hear him out, because some of the things that he's saying is very important.
That is
it's very important. Just let me hear him out, okay? Please, Sam, please.
To finish that point, right? I mean, these are some of the folks who do the most dangerous work in the city, and their lives are at risk every day that they show up to work. So we're ensuring they have the adequate equipment. Similarly, improvements to our police, fire, EMS, domain, DPW radios, which we need to do in order to make sure that when an emergency happens, they can all talk to one another. And then new investment in the Shelby Park ice rink to keep it open for all city residents, which it is in jeopardy of not being if the current mechanics break. Okay, so now we're going to open it up for questions, and I'm going to hand it over to Chris Sarah to facilitate that part of the process.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you for watching this video of Pittsburgh Events. To watch this video again or any other video from Pittsburgh Events, you can go to the YouTube channel as 18 Ricco. It's youtube.com/18RICCO. Again, thank you for watching, and you can check out this video and any other video from Pittsburgh Events and many other videos that didn't make it on TV.
Yeah, we're going to go to the middle again, but I'm going to call people who registered to speak in the beginning. Okay. That's what I'm going to do.
So where was that registration?
Hey, and I want to reiterate some of our meeting norms as well. I would like to reiterate that we're going to have respect for everyone here. I want to have respect for everyone. Sam, thank you. I want to thank you. I want to thank you for being here, first of all. But I also would like for you to show respect for everyone who is going to speak and share their comments. So I'm going to start off by calling the first 5 people.
Everyone will have a chance to speak. You'll all have a chance.
Yeah, so if you still have so how I'm going to do it is, I'm going to first call the people who registered to provide public comment, and then everyone else who still wants to provide a question or comment. It's the same thing. They're all related. Yeah, it's all related. Yes, we will be answering. Yes, all right. So, all right. I would like to start with Carlo Taylor, Catherine Q, Ken Regal, Roy Blanket, and Zenna Scott. We can all line up if you guys would still like to speak. All right. Gotcha. All right. So I will ask Rich Worthy and Barbara Goodson. All right. Rory, kick us off.
In the mic.
And I'm here speaking on behalf of my organization.
We can't hear you, man.
Hello? Yes. My name is Roy Blankenship, community organizer with BPAL. Basically, the question I had for the committee, or just during this process, is I do a lot of community organizing, and I'm all over the city and representing marginalized communities and working together. I know that your administration has done some things that most administrations haven't tried, but in marginalized communities right now, what I'm wondering is, as you see from speaking just now, right, a lot of community members and organizations might not be like sort of working together, and I wanted to know how were we able to make sure that an administration that's doing its best can sort of reach out to these communities. I mean, I do feel, and I would like to say from our standpoint, that we find it vital to make sure that the majority of community members have a chance to either participate in a democratic process or that civic process. So, can you please figure out a sort of solution to help? Thank you.
We're getting the questions and holding them to the end or answering.
We're gonna hold them till the end.
Okay, we're gonna write down, just so everyone knows, what we're gonna do is we're gonna get all the questions and comments, write them down, and we're gonna make sure that we address them all at the end. All right.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Kathy Qureshi. I live on the south side of the city of Pittsburgh. I'm here to ask about the parks tax. About 3 years ago, citizens of the city of Pittsburgh, everyone in here, homeowner or renter, pays a surcharge to their property tax to have it invested in parks. Pittsburgh Parks Conservancy was invited to submit proposals. We submitted proposals for North Side, Beltsuver, and then planning proposals in Homewood, The Hill, and Spring Hill. And also green jobs preparedness, so we can have jobs in the environment for people, for city residents. Unfortunately, the preliminary budget has the parks tax going to vehicles, to public works vehicles, 30% of it to backhoes and pickup trucks and so on, and then to the Shenley Park Ice Rink, great facility. It's in Squirrel Hill in Shenley Park, and there is time, you all have said, and we really greatly appreciate if some of that parks tax money could be put into equitable park investment.
Thank you.
Come on, Ms. Kathy. I really want that question definitely answered, that one there.
Evening, I'm Zed Scott, and I do live in Homewood.
Yes, we know.
Today we presented at City Council asking for $10 million to be set aside for food apartheid across the city of Pittsburgh. I want to put it out here to the mayor. I didn't hear anything about food.
Okay, Ms.
In
Zinner.
the budget.
Okay, Ms.
So I
Zinner.
want to make sure that happens because it's a necessary evil in this city.
Yes, ma'am.
Y'all down there feeding on that block, they are. They take money out their own pockets, they really are.
Yeah, we all do it in the community.
They're feeding, and that's true, that's a good point.
Okay, my name's Barbara Goodson. I am not from the area of the Pin Hills, but I originate from Homewood, and that's why I'm back.
We catching hell in Pin Hills and Knoxville.
Right, but let's put it this way. My question is, comparing East Liberty to Homewood. What you've put in East Liberty, we can see it. What you put in Homewood, I don't see, compared to the way it used to be. We have no businesses coming back into Homewood, investing in Homewood, and that's what we need. We need the community to have input what they want here. We need other businesses coming back here. And the main thing is education of our kids. You talk about crime. Well, what are you going to do if they're not educated? The kids in Homewood are at their lowest level of learning. And we need to do, that should be the first thing on the board, is educating our kids and make sure they're eating.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Ken Riegel with the Food Justice Organization, Just Harvest. Ms. Zinna asked most of my question, but I did want to call particular attention to understanding the roughly $330 million in federal American Rescue Plan funds that the city received or is slated to receive and use over the next couple of years. most of that money was budgeted under the prior administration, and I would like to hear some explanation of how much of that money is actually available to be reprogrammed in new priorities that you're hearing tonight and at other community meetings.
Again, I will give space for everyone to say anything who did not sign up for a public comment or question. Whoever's added, I will call your name. We got a little technology here. I just want to let you know. We got it. We got you. Give you time. Let me call you up. All right. So Armin Samai, Randall Taylor, Tim Maloney, Lewis Williams, and Ricco Rucker.
Hello, my name is Amin Sami. First, I want to thank you for continuing to fund DOMI and Complete Streets. I'd like to see the new operating budget for the new DOMI stuff, and that Complete Streets continues to be funded. I would love it funded more. But to address some of the things that were said in this room, I get a text message every Friday or every Thursday about trash, telling me to take out my trash. I don't know why we can't do the same thing for the whole city to let people know about meetings like this. It sounds like people don't use email as much as I do. They use text messages. I'm in Lawrenceville.
And they do that, the city does
No,
that?
they text me about trash, not about this meeting. I'm saying trash. You can go to pgh.st, they'll text you on trash day. But let's get texts like that set up for these community meetings. It sounds like that might be a better way to reach everybody in the community as well. Might not be a capital budget item. I think that costs less than $50,000 to text people, but might reach that level. I don't know how much texting costs, but I think we can set that up.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That's information we need.
Good evening, folks. My name's Randall Taylor, and just the one on the budget is when we fought for the Housing Opportunity Fund, it was supposed to be 1% realty transfer tax. And so it means with all this city growing, that fund should have grown with the 1%. So I still would like to see that recommendation that 1% stays, and everything in realty transfer goes into the Housing Opportunity Fund. So I did want to say, and I don't want to comment, and Kyle, I never tried to get your last name, forgive me. You know, I barely speak English, so it's hard to do that. But he's the chair of the Urban Redevelopment Authority, and just this week, they denied the sale of the Coliseum to a group a robotics firm. I'm not putting that down. Okay, and two.
Yes.
So let me just say, I'm from East Liberty. I lost my home along with hundreds of my neighbors. Gentrification can start with just a Whole Foods, and by the way, that's what they tore the home down for, was for Whole Foods. So a Starbucks and a Whole Foods can kick off gentrification in this neighborhood. So we need the Coliseum, and put that in the budget. We need the Coliseum as a community resource for us.
Thank you.
We need chess clubs, wedding receptions, roller skating, movies, concerts, plays. People need to have a place we can come out and be a community. We don't have that in Homewood right now. People are hiding in their homes. So I'll just say finally, there's somebody who wrote a book, and they talked about when they had the big heat wave in Chicago, and so many people died. What they found out was they didn't die because they didn't have air conditioning. They died because people didn't know they were there. So when we come out every day, every morning to the chess club, I know you weren't there this morning. Where you at? That's why we need that community center to be a community, because we are going to bring Homewood back.
Yes, we are.
It is coming back.
Yes, we are.
And the Homewood Coliseum is going to be the center of the new Homewood.
Thank you.
That's all I want to say.
Come on, Randall.
Good evening. My name is Lewis Williams. My question and my comment is that the mayor's staff and the executive board here, when you do the survey, right, to get information about what's going on, I live on this side of Thomas Boulevard, and when I cross over on that side of Thomas Boulevard, I can see a big difference in everything, right? So I don't need a survey to tell me that what's going on. Like if this is my job, right? If this is my job, all I gotta do is ride up and down these streets and I can figure out the budget from just myself. So we're paying you all. You don't really need us to give you a survey of information. This has been going on for 40 years. The same problems. It's not new stuff. It's the same problems, systemic problems that's going on from administration to administration that's getting overlooked. So we got to come back out here and remind y'all of what's been going on for 40 years. I don't understand that.
It's 30 minutes by his house.
He got a detail up there. It's also got put behind his house. Like,
it's
so they know what we going through, but what we dealing with is addiction with juveniles, and nobody want to address that. Assume it, but these kids that
Ricco.
get on the ground is grown ups too. We can't do that, assume it.
All right, I just want to reiterate our meeting norms for our third time this evening. Please respect everyone's time. I don't think I have to reiterate. I don't have to like show, like tell anybody what respect is, right? Like we all know, like we like respect, like when it, like when, I have everybody's name. I have everybody's name when it's time to speak. I just want to say,
What's happening? What happened in these communities?
Amber Sloan, is that your name?
Yes, it is.
All right, well, I got your name on the list. Whenever I call your name, you can come up and speak your comments, all right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Here you go, Ricco.
First and foremost, I like to say that I appreciate the emotion in this room because we are all invested stakeholders in our community. I'm sorry, I'm going to say that again. I would like to say I am thankful to see the emotion in this room, as you can see that we are invested stakeholders within our community. I have a couple things that I need to say, and one thing that I am going to start out with is the Urban Redevelopment Authority. They have the avenues of hope in place, and we need to do our research on the avenues of hope because what was done with the Coliseum is unacceptable. The reason why no one was decided to be a finalist is because the RFI process was insufficient. We pay these people. We vote these people in office. And we have the power to empower our community to vote these people out of office and empower our community. So just a couple things that I'm going to caption on is some things that I've seen up on your screen. For safe environments, for safe neighborhoods, environment and lifelong learning, welcome communities, culture celebration, resident empowerment, thriving people, equality, and economic mobility. I think you guys have to do some research on the words that you're putting up here because we can see these things are not happening. And we can see that clearly our voices are not heard and we are not on the budget. And that's the difference. We see this loud and clearly. So just a couple pointers that I'm going to say. There is hundreds of millions of billions of dollars going into these nonprofits, such as Carnegie Mellon University, Pitt, UPMC. No one is governing these agencies to control where this money is going. And if we had an audit put in place, we would be able to track where this money is going. And the reason why I am running for District 9 City Council is because it is important to me to empower my community on what is happening right in front of their faces. And we don't have access to these things. And change needs to come. And another thing, like Ms. Zena said about the $10 million that the mayor was mentioning about putting food out there. The mayor has also been working with these nonprofit entities to be able to start paying property taxes. Since he's got in office, what has happened? are very woke. We are not asleep. What has been done over 40 years ago cannot continue to happen. And the fact that you guys are still going off of the 1900 studies is unacceptable. We are in 2022, not 1900s. This is unacceptable. And it's up to us as the community members to empower each other to get these people out of office and pick people in here who are going to be great representatives of our community. Another thing, if we are going to empower our community, and you guys have millions of dollars in this budget, reach out to our community members to have them be a part of the process and paying them to clean up the community. We want to be included. We are left out. I don't know how much more we can say this and have you guys listening, but at the end of the day, Homewood matters to everybody. And Homewood was a very great community back in the day, and it still is. Homewood matters. It's time to make Homewood great again, and we're not accepting less.
Thank you. I just wanted to echo Ricco in saying that and acknowledge the passion that is in this room. I will say that throughout our community meetings that we have had in Homewood, one thing that is, that one thing that reoccurs is that, or is consistent, is the passion. And that you guys love your community. I love where I'm from as well. And you guys you should be invested in these. So the fact that you guys are showing up is a great thing in itself. So I want to thank you all again for being here. I do want to make a reminder, since we will be running low on time, and I want everyone to get an opportunity to ask their questions. I still have more people on my list, and I have more people that I still have to get to. And respecting everybody's time, I want to try to limit, or let's have like a 1 to 2 minute comment or question. I want to give our panelists an opportunity to answer everyone's questions. So now I'm going to continue to call the next 5 people up. Ray Neal. Sam Gibson.
Sam already had his turn.
I'm not trying to mess this name up.
I mean, you should have put it on out there.
Bryson Young. I knew I was going to jack you up. I'm sorry. Amber Slung and Billy Vaughn.
Thank you for watching this video of Pittsburgh Events. To watch this video again or any other video from Pittsburgh Events, you can go to the YouTube channel as 18 Ricco. It's youtube.com/18RICCO. Again, thank you for watching, and you can check out this video and any other video from Pittsburgh Events and many other videos that didn't make it on TV.
Okay, I have a lot of questions, but I'm going to limit it down to one, okay? Or not to one, but just a couple of things that I want to say. When y'all talked about the overall budget, I asked you all the number one question: was Homewood included in this survey?
No.
The answer is no, because you didn't get the feedback. So everything you said about this budget, we're not in it. Just to make you all clear, everything they put on that board does not pertain to you, nobody in here. You all said that you're putting money into recreation facilities to stop the violence. That's not going to stop the violence. The recreation facility's been around here for years. There's still violence growing. You all, like Ricco said, invest all of these millions of dollars in these nonprofits, which are universities, which are construction sites, which are these fake real estate companies who buy up the land. if you saw their incoming revenue, all they did was put it back into the city. They do not fund any nonprofit that gives back to the community. Man being an example, made it, buy back the block. We've all been denied more than 5 times from the city and state to provide emergency services for low-income residents for triggering neighborhoods like Homewood, BRUSHTON, Garfield, Bell Suver. They know this. They know that why they didn't put Homewood in the budget. They do not want to save you all. So it's up to you all to save you all. And I'm going to tell you the truth. You are not going to be included in the budget. Because if you were, you would have been up there on the budget in the survey. They didn't make every effort to reach you all. Let's be very clear here. This is not something that happened overnight. It's been going on for years. It's been going on for years. It's been going on for years. The drug addicts are still running around here for years. You're not stopping that. Why don't you give to some of these nonprofits that's doing drug rehabilitation? Why don't you, in the neighborhood? Why don't you give to some of these nonprofits? Do you know that 80% of every community in the city is made up of single mothers? You all will not fund no organization that provides same-day emergency assistance to single mothers. They're giving up on their kids, and the kids is killing kids. Because all they're doing is pouring funding where it doesn't need to go, where it doesn't belong. Into the police. Into the body cameras. Okay? Into the pools. They about to get rid of Homewood pool anyway. And do what they want to do.
They said in July, remember that? We still waiting.
We still waiting on it. But I'm telling you all have to start voting and really making your voices being heard.
Voting don't matter, baby.
Because my main question to you all, and I'm going to get to the question, is everything in here that we're talking about going to be in this budget? Because if it's not, we're wasting our breath. And personally, it's disrespectful to us, and y'all wasting our time.
I'm just being real.
You don't mind if I jump in front of you, Big Red?
I do.
You do? She's called me. Yeah. I'm Sam Gibson, right? How's everybody doing tonight? I don't need that, my dear.
Yeah, you got to use your mic.
How's everybody doing tonight? I just wanted to stop past and see everybody today. I got 2-3 questions real quick. You ready to write them down? How is the mayor got 30 lawyers? You want to answer? Y'all gonna write that down? So we can get that answer?
I smell corruption.
I mean, he got 30 lawyers. How's his personal assistant, this gentleman in the black shirt, making $120,000? I'm just saying. His personal assistant, $120,000.
Fund the staff instead of the funding the police?
And I just got a question for the team, JP. How do we put somebody at the table who's from the community? Because I don't see nobody up here from the community. And JP, you got a long line working in what you do. How do we get us, the community, at the table? So when you all are making these accurates, however you all say that, you all doing all these plans, somebody from the community can be pre-warned that we ain't gonna get on the budget. Last and final. I couldn't see that. I'm getting older. I am. Last and final. My question too is the safety. People scared. People really. Now I know we joke and I know I say a whole lot of things, but we scared, man. When we gonna do something? People don't want to come out their houses. People who pay taxes. I'm being honest. Now, I mean, y'all have heard it. This is the same song and dance we did across the street. Y'all gonna move it up the street. Now, if y'all go into the white neighborhood, I'm gonna show up and I'm gonna act a fool, and I don't care about no police trying to put me out, because whichever police tries to at a public safety meeting, I'm gonna sue them. I'm saying that forewarning on the camera. Here, this is my question. How do we make it right, man? We need to do something like tomorrow.
Like when y'all had y'all Southside meetings, y'all had that shit laid out, them people tell y'all what the fuck they want.
And they got it together.
I'm just saying, on the same thing, they shoot people left and right. And y'all know I ain't coming up here screaming, yelling, I ain't cussing y'all out. The kids is down left and right, man. And I know we can't do it overnight. What can we talk about seriously about the safety factor? I mean, buying guns back is great, because I said that. Can we talk about putting a police station right in the center of Frankstown Avenue? The cars gotta drive around it like y'all put one of those them flyer things.
Can we get a police hub?
We
Can we get a police hub?
we ain't afraid of the police. I'm being honest as I can possibly
We
get.
gotta build relationships with the police first, and the different, there's other ways we gotta go.
Listen, hold on, Am. All I'm saying to you all is this. People are scared. Somebody said to me, driving down here, she said, Sam, I will come to the meeting, but I'm afraid when I leave from there, because where it's at, something might happen to me. And that's a young lady who's my age, who we rock out together. We gotta really and truly talk about, let's not put it in the coalition. Let's talk about really and truly putting it into one of these organizations that this young lady just mentioned, truthfully, about some money we putting into this group so we can get these mothers with these badass kids, these kids on the streets, so we can get them off. Because some jobs would be nice. Some jobs. Let's get these teenagers, we need to go up and down the street. Little boy, you on the street, let's give them some jobs or something. Because this is serious, man. I'm being honest, straight from the heart, man. Okay? If we can get that in the budget, because I can't read all that gibberish y'all got going on there. I can't read that, all right?
Thank you.
And about that survey, what's up with that survey y'all put out? Are we going to be notified about that? Or y'all going to pass that out for us?
Your 10 minutes is up.
I know y'all, but what about the survey? Because the survey's why y'all here.
And the survey matters.
Yeah.
We're gonna address it all. We wanna be
Oh,
respectful.
okay. Tell the truth. I just want y'all to tell the truth. I'm serious. Get BPAP that money so we can do some safety. Let's start there. I mean, listen. I need somebody to get the money so we can do some safety.
Okay, so can y'all hear me? Yeah. Hi. Okay. So I did a little quick research. I mean, I don't think we really need research to know that most of Pittsburgh is white. 66% of it is white. That leaves what, 33% black, or is it 34 now? 34. Okay. So more than 3/5 is white. When it comes to these surveys, y'all see all that blue because we are outnumbered. That's a fact. However, what I want to know is when it comes to making these budgets, because I do policy, I'm not aware of all the budgets. That's why Dan knows. When it comes to doing the budget, despite being outnumbered, how do you guys plan to operationalize this budget? When you have less than 2/5 of the people speaking, when you have less than 2/5 of black people and people of color speaking, we're overshadowed, we're outnumbered. So what do you plan to do about that? In the budget, it says equality. We can't do equality. That doesn't work if the numbers aren't there. So we need equity at that point, right? How do we operationalize equity in this budget? And it's not gonna be through these surveys. Like I said, 66% versus 34%, there's not much you can do with that. We can't change the numbers. How do we change how those numbers look in the budget? That's what I want to know.
Thank you. I would like to call up Todd McCollum and Natasha Washington as well to get in line. Letitia?
Hello, good morning,
And
good evening, y'all.
don't block the interpreter.
So, what am I blocking?
The interpreter.
So mine is like a three-way question, right? So when we talk about the gun violence in Homewood, when we talk about what's going on with our youth, we have to be open and honest on what we're dealing with, right? We got kids overdosing in the school.
Come on, somebody.
I got a 15-year-old overdosed in Westinghouse. No one's talking about this stuff. We have real issues going on. Forget a road, we have to get this opiate addiction thing. We got fentanyl being in the community that kids is taking, they think it's edible. It's not even, it's fentanyl. The boy took an edible and passed out. We got a kid that died in McKeesport. These is issues that need to be addressed. We're dealing with homelessness. They decided the city's going to get what, $2.4 million to organizations, the same ones that address homelessness? And this ain't enough for nobody, or you, Miss Sharon. I know you work for AHM. But my point is homelessness again. I did a walkthrough with this city. I don't need a mic. I did a walkthrough with this city when Ed first got in office. From going down to Inwood Street. When I call him my nephew, he was killed down there. These people need lights. They've been asking. They put the cameras in their face. When that man got killed and told them they was coming back, they ain't been back to Inwood. It's pitch black. Okay? We got killings going on and our homelessness look different. The bandos you have me walk through, and I'm telling you, the addicts live in abandoned houses. They break in the funeral homes. Listen, they live in these abandoned houses. So where's this money going to go addressing Homewood homelessness? $2.4 million in homelessness, and Homewood looks completely different than a damn tent. Go in every alleyway where there's an abandoned house. There are addicts getting high.
Thank you.
So we have to address real issues when we're talking about homelessness and 2.4 million. If no one in Homewood is getting that money to help these people that is on these streets in this addiction, this is going to continue to be a problem with the balance. The kids are on drugs. Wow. They don't know they're on drugs. They're taking a pill that they think is a pill. Wow. They think they're taking a perk 30. Motherfuckers is walking around with pressors. You get what I'm saying? That's a silent death and ain't nobody speaking about it. And it's in our mayor's community. Wow.
Right.
And I have a problem with it. Our kids is suffering. Fix that shit.
Thank you. All right, so I just got 3 questions. So one culture in Pittsburgh that we have a problem with organizations and nonprofits is the culture of nepotism. So a lot of funding is going to organizations based on just long-time favoritism and how good their grant writer is, and not, you know, the actual mission and vision.
How good the relationship and the grant writer is.
Right.
And y'all are funding the same one.
Well, wait, hold on, real quick, hold on. So if you look at a visual, right, even from federal, if the government sends out so many Section 8 vouchers, right, they actually send out enough. Where the problem is the middleman, where when they get it, they start administering it like it's their money, right? So then, and it's really an issue of manpower. It's not that there's not enough vouchers, there's not enough people to work down at the housing authority. So that's affecting.
They gotta change their policy.
Right, but that should not affect the people, because the government is sending it. The government is sending enough money. So I'm just saying to look into. Hold on, y'all. To look, if you look into the middleman of where this money is being distributed to. Another one, you said you want to raise the fund for the 10 million for the opportunity fund. That opportunity fund had a surplus this year, so they didn't even use it. So all that money wasn't even used towards the rent relief that was in the funding, right? And it's not a surplus because there was a surplus, right? There was money left, so it did not get administered to all who qualified. So I think a big problem is, you know, these organizations that you guys are funneling the money through. There needs to be, I think one of them already said it, some audit to where it's actually going. If you talk to the homeless people, if you talk to, I have a friend who's a crackhead. When they, she's a crackhead, okay, right? So when she went to one of the rehab centers, they bothered her so much for her to leave, you know, so she didn't get the service. They made her so uncomfortable, where if you ask them, why aren't they in rehabilitation centers? It's these middlemen who you guys are funneling through. So I think to give another organization a chance to get the funding for them to do it. And one thing you had in your budget that I guess would be relatable to the people is the, hold on, I wrote it down, is the CDBG, Community Development Block Grant, right? Yes. That was in the budget. Did y'all see that?
We seen that.
All right. So, and for those of you who don't know, the block is a grant, and it's awarded, and it's for social services, community development. Block grants are given to general purposes for like community groups. So I just think you guys should be more. The money's there. They're showing you guys there is a budget.
How
the
much
problem
is
the middleman. That's it. Even for the issue with the Thomas Boulevard, they want to address this stuff. And one thing I want to say, because I have kids in the public school system, right? What we're seeing in a lot of states, a lot of cities that are getting more black political power, it seems like we're losing public safety. So if that's the case, if we do have people that don't want to work under black political power, then we got to step up and provide public safety for our communities. You feel me? Because we're losing police officers who just refuse to work under a black man. That's the truth.
right? So that's what they're going to do. They're going to trade and give us political power and take away public safety because they just cannot work under black political power. Then we got to do what we got to do to help and support our black political power that we beg for and police our community. But that's the reality. It's happening in Chicago. It's a trade. They're going to give us political power and they're going to say, we'll take our public safety. All right. So we got to do what we got to do.
So I want to open this up to anyone else who did not sign up to provide a public comment or question to line up as well, and we will continue, and after this we will give our panelists an opportunity to answer the questions that were asked tonight.
Thank you. I can be very brief and very specific.
Speak up a little bit, please.
I'm sorry, Sam. I'm trying to talk as long as I can. It was mentioned in the slide presentation of 6 paramedics being hired in the budget coming up.
No police.
Hold on, Sam, one thing at a time. Does that fully staff the paramedics? And is there room in the budget for more? Because it is my understanding that not only the police department is understaffed, that the medics and the EMTs are conservatively 20 people understaffed in the city. And if that's a correct number, I'd like to know. And is there more room for hiring medics until the violence can be curbed and the drug problem be brought to a halt?
If there's any more money, can we get more police?
These young men to be cops, not if they don't have to go to.
They need more police. Ms. Simmons just told me they 25 short in this.
All right, we're going to ask our next speaker.
Let me know if I'm talking too low because I tend to do that. I'm Natasha Washington. I'm from Wilkinsburg, but my family's from Homewood, and I worked in Homewood at ODB with GEA Green Corps, which I think a lot of people talked about. What should youth do? GEA Green Corps is still a present program, and it is a program that has done vacant lot restoration as well as sidewalk and street surveys. And I think that is a good opportunity if you're investing into getting public works to have more staff, to have a youth program. I know you have your civil program that's going, but since y'all are doing infrastructure work, that is something that you can have youth do. I do have a couple questions, so I'm going to try to get through them quickly. My first one was, is there a way for us to require developers to do more when they are doing development? As mentioned before, the lights, that's something that can be in their proposal. The sidewalks can be in their proposal. Cleaning up from demolition can be in their proposal. Community engagement should be in their proposal. And I think that should be a requirement for all developers. I think that we should have local signups here for services that are within the city. I know I procrastinate my gun registration and with safety being an issue, and I know I'm scared too. I would like to have something local that I can come to register to get my gun license. I also want to know if there is like a vacant lot plan, is there going to be something where we can track what vacant lots are being done with the status of those, or can we improve the 311 calls where we can see where priority areas are, where we can make sure that we're stacking up the requests that are being put in there, being tracked, make sure that the person that requested it is being engaged, make sure that community that it's in is being engaged and know that it's happening. As mentioned many times, can we have more partnerships with local nonprofit leaders that will participate, hopefully in your disparity survey. I know she spoke already. I think the Black Women Policy should be a major partner in that because you speak on Black women. They do a lot of great work there.
Put this program together, why not bring them to the table?
Yeah, I mean, I think there should be more engagement overall. And for, sorry, I wrote a lot of stuff. I'm so sorry. For as the youth prevention, I think we didn't talk a lot about prevention. I think we talked a lot about reactionary solutions. I think that we need to develop, as other people said, more spaces, more programs for youth to be involved in. I think that's something that we should prioritize in the communities that we're seeing a lot of safety issues in. I think when it comes to things like the Homewood Coliseum, we need to figure out what buildings we have as the city that we can rehab and do tech programs, do programs that kids would actually enjoy, do an actual sit down with the youth in the community and ask them what they want and what they want to see, because there are youth that will definitely come and speak and tell you what they want to see in their community and what they need to feel safe, to feel like they have something to go to. So I highly recommend, if you're doing listening sessions for adults, that there should be one for youth as well. I think I got through all my questions, so I'm just going to go to the next person.
You're going to be our last person to provide a question or comment tonight, and then I'm going to pass the mic over to our panelists.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Barbara Daniels. I'm very solution oriented. I was talking to Miss Francis, who lives in the Homewood high rise, and she was talking about a 17-year-old child that, I guess he was homeless. He came into the building, he was laying on the couch, he ended up bringing, they had bed bugs. So I asked you guys to include in the budget, we need safe homes. There's a lot of homeless children that are living in these abandoned properties. And I think that with all of the vacant properties and all of the money that, I remember going to a meeting when Bill Perduto promised us that he was giving $50 million to Homewood. I don't know where, we didn't see it. And so I just asked if we could rehab at least 5 homes, or, I mean, if the property's there, the money is there. That would take a lot of these children off the street. We can rehabilitate these kids. We can get them off drugs. There's a lot of us. I'll be willing to mother these children. If you give me the house, I will volunteer to mother them, because all they need is love.
Well, I'm over at CCAC's till 10 o'clock at night. They can always come hang over with me. I got the whole building. So
Okay.
I'll go over there, make the kids know that stuff.
They gonna need somebody for food to feed them, JP.
I'm
JP.
ready. Once football season's over, I'm gonna be hosting the movie nights and stuff. I'm gonna be reaching out to people, making them some meals, so we can have some different conversations with it.
But I'm solution oriented, and so I'm saying that, and if you want me, my degree is management and health services. If you want me to develop a plan proposal for you, I'll do it, and I'll send it to you, Lisa Frank, and I'll do that. And Billy, you were all in my business because I had nepotism on my phone. This is a personal, I am a law-abiding citizen. Check my record, I don't get in trouble with the law. So this is to the chief of police back there. So this is for why Black people feel, why we feel that we are targeted. I live in Homewood. I was at the East Liberty Library. I go to the library every Saturday. I park my car. I was carrying food up there. So one guy drove up with his BMW. He's mad. I don't know what his problem was. He's trying to back up. There's a car behind me. He's calling me all kinds of names. I can't back up because there's somebody behind me. But I guess he didn't realize somebody was behind me. Fast forward the story, I go around him and park. Him and the woman get out, they calling me names, he's calling me fat. I'm telling him I'd rather be fat than ugly, because all that.
You look good in that, baby. Let me come
Thank you, Sam. So he gets out, the woman calls me, tells me all kind of things. Bottom line, she said, I'll call the police on you. I said, call the police for what? She goes and calls the police. She was a Karen. She went and called the police. I went upstairs, taking my food up. I go back down, get the ice, and then me and the man is arguing. The library security comes out and he brings me in the library and tells me, ma'am, it's okay. They're just privileged. It's okay, because he's driving a BMW. She does call, and she calls her brother. I come out, and he gave me a $122 ticket. I called. Her brother was the police.
That's white privilege.
Nepotism.
Jesus.
Nepotism.
No, that's not nepotism, girl. That's paper. That's favorite.
That's what numbers
She thought he like that, and he came up
And so
in the hood.
I asked you.
In the hood.
I asked you. I called Channel 11 News. I thought Rick Earl, since I thought we were cool, I thought he was gonna take care of this. But he didn't. And I asked you, because I'm a mother of a young man. And I don't want to bury my child. I don't want to have a fight with y'all City of Police.
Thank you for watching this video of Pittsburgh Events. To watch this video again or any other video from Pittsburgh Events, you can go to the YouTube channel as 18 Ricco. It's youtube.com/18RICCO. Again, thank you for watching, and you can check out this video and any other video from Pittsburgh Events and many other videos that didn't make it on TV.
Thank you, Sam. And also, in regards to the homelessness situation, I'm working in the community every day, right up on Frankstown Avenue, helping people that are homeless find housing, give them food, give them clothing, anything else that they need. So if anybody knows of anyone that is homeless or near homeless, I have business cards here. Please give me a call. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I just want to, before I hand the mic to the panelists, I just want to thank everyone again for coming out, asking your questions, making your comments heard, showing your passion for the community. And I'm going to pass this to our Deputy Mayor, Jake Pollock, in 1 second. All right, here we go.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you everyone for coming out tonight, for sharing your thoughts, your questions, your comments. Really appreciate, as others have mentioned, the energy and passion in the room. We've got a bunch of questions to answer. We're going to sort of try and summarize. There were a number of questions on similar topics, so we're going to try and answer them in groups. And I think, if it's all right, Lisa, to the point you just made to me, there were a number of them around public safety, around youth and violence reduction. I think we can sort of take those together. So I'm going to hand the mic to you first.
Okay. Thanks. Can you hear? Is it easier if can you hear better if I stand up? So let's see. What the public safety questions that I remember are. Do the 6 additional paramedics make the Bureau fully staffed, the EMS Bureau fully staffed? I believe it does. Although here's the thing, and somebody raised it, right? That all of these jobs with EMS, police, firefighters, and whatnot. You know, people sometimes people stay in them for a long time, and sometimes people don't, and that means we often have openings, but that also creates an opportunity. And so one of the things that I wanted to share with people, and it is budgeted, is that at Westinghouse School we're piloting what I think is really an exciting program that will let kids graduate directly from Westinghouse and move into our public safety bureaus. That could be police, that could be fire, that could be EMS, and to make sure that there's no point at which they don't have the funds that they need to make it. So for instance, you're learning to be a paramedic while you're at Westinghouse. When you come out, there's some courses that you have to do. You gotta take a test, you gotta pass that test. You need a mentor for that to make sure that that's all funded so that people can fly directly into their apprenticeship and go right from there to employment in the city, which is a good place to start to be employed. If you're an EMT, because that's what you would be, you can go from there to be a paramedic. Paramedics are inches away from being nurses. Nurses are a little ways from being doctors, so that creates a pathway through city government for people to develop. And when we get that kind of under our belt, starting with public safety, because that's where we have the most jobs in the city, we want to try it with our IMT department, R&P department, so that people can be programmers and network engineers. And Kim Lucas, who is sitting here,
is background checks, because the school was putting them in the criminal system.
So think about it. This is an important point that you're making, and we're going pretty systematically through our job descriptions and have evolved a policy to remove those barriers. So some of them are
so they don't get in the criminal system from school offenses.
Absolutely.
Because that's how they get in the system.
Absolutely. So as JP said at the very beginning, we don't control everything about the schools, but we are trying to move.
For this program you're setting up.
I'm sorry?
Who will qualify?
Anybody who's in Westinghouse High School.
But if they had felonies,
Kids already got jackets coming out of 10th grade.
They already have records.
So
You understand what I'm saying? This is not.
it depends. There's many city jobs that people with records can have. Many. So if you have somebody, we would like to explore that with you. We're we're trying to lower all those barriers. Now, there are some things that that would be difficult. As you know, there are some particular felonies that may mean you can't be matched to a particular job, but we don't say any felony anywhere disqualifies you from every job, and we want to work really hard to remove those barriers so that your record is not an impediment to you getting city employment. I think we're going to do that in a lot of places.
I'm gonna get your phone number because I'm gonna go down there and make sure that 12
Great. So one other thing that I do want to share with people is that we have not had a new class for police officers in a few years. I think the last year we had them was in 2019. We have budgeted for coming up a class for young people. Well, you could be a young people, you could be a middle person, you could be whatever, but we will actually have a police class. We really want that class to be drawn from our community. This is an opportunity for us to make sure that our force reflects the values of people in this community, that people from this community can move into the force. So when that class opens, we want to be sure that people are aware of it. If you know people who think that might be a good seat on the bus for them, to make sure that they're looking for that and applying and coming into the force from Homewood. So I think, are there other? March or April. We need a little time to get it together. What grade? Level.
What grade level will you start that program for?
For people to step into the police academy, this is state law. This is not one of the things that we have control over. You can't start until you're 20. So you need to be.
So when is our place at West School?
In Westinghouse, it's the CTE program. So kids can start when they're in 9th grade, and then it intensifies, as you get older, and then it's the 12th graders who are then eligible for the apprenticeships to move right into the emergency bureau. And in the emergency bureau, you don't have to be 20. You can do it at 18.
We offered a program for younger kids to start learning, so they can develop, but we didn't get anything back.
Okay. Are there other public safety things that you are aware of up there? No. Do you want to talk about lighting?
Lighting, no, we don't.
You don't want to hear about this?
Sorry, just going through the questions. There was a question about lighting and the need for lights in different parts of this community, and it's really not a issue that's unique to Homewood. There are a number of neighborhoods across the city where we have lighting inequity, right? And so we do have, it wasn't mentioned in the slides because it's a project that already started this year, so it wasn't new funding this year, but it's continuing. I can't hear you, but just there's
the lights was the lights. That's what he was saying. The lights was. Say it again, JP. Because I don't even want to know.
A lighting project was started with this year's 2022 budget.
So it's not in this new budget now.
It is in the new budget. It wasn't on the slides because it's not new. But the project is to replace.
Is it in the budget for Homewood? I'm sorry, JP.
Yes, it is in the budget for Homewood and everywhere. It is in the budget for the citywide, including Homewood, to replace our existing older, energy inefficient streetlights that don't cast very much light and waste a ton of energy being lit up not very well, with newer, brighter, more energy efficient lights, and filling in the gaps in the system. So we have pretty big disparities in how many streetlights there are per neighborhood across the city. We don't believe that that's fair or equitable. So we want to make sure that every community, every business district has equitable street lighting. And that means first and foremost, putting up new lights in places that don't have enough of them now before we put up replacement lights everywhere else. So we're gonna replace all the lights. In the course of replacing all the lights, that's gonna take time. That's a multi-year project. It's a lot of work. But in the course of doing that, we're going to add additional lighting to the places where it's missing, and we're going to focus on those areas first. So on the question of lighting, that's well underway. It's a big, complicated job that requires a lot of planning and a lot of design before you can see construction. So you're not going to see the lights going up tomorrow, but we're already working on it. So that one's coming.
Milwaukee's about them lights in 2015, up and down Franktown with each administration, we still talking about lights.
Amber,
I post up on Facebook. I said.
I hear what you're saying, Amber. I really do. I can't speak for any. I can't speak for anything that happened before January 2020.
About another administration because
yeah.
we're into a new one. So like, whatever happened then, it doesn't fucking matter. We're here. Get us out the jam and help us out.
But we're moving ahead aggressively with that project for exactly the reason that it came up. I'm going to take a couple more of these, maybe somewhat out of order. But I want to say a couple things in response to some of the points that Ricco brought up, both of which I completely agree with. The first is we shouldn't be operating on a 20th century disparity study. We shouldn't have our program for including women and minority-owned businesses in city procurement based on data from the 90s. It's absurd, and that's exactly why one of our top priorities in our first budget is to fix that problem and to get a new study that updates those goals based on current reality. If we didn't need a study, we would just do it, right? But we need the study under federal rules in order to be able to have a strong program. So the first thing we have to do is do the study and make sure we're doing it right, which is why it's a top priority. Ricco also threw around the word billions. I promise you we don't have billions of dollars. I wish we did. But this is a large budget, and I think he's right, and the mayor agrees that there are some folks, frankly, who aren't paying into that process to give us the resources we need in total to meet all the city's needs. It's no secret that about 40% of the real estate in the city is held by nonprofit institutions that don't pay any taxes. Some of which are the biggest and in some cases most profitable institutions in our region. We are working on that, and we are continuing to work on a strategy to correct that problem. We've seen good progress. It's not done yet, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but it's a top priority. It was a top priority of the mayor's in his campaign for good reason. It's a top priority of ours now. We don't show the results of that here yet because we haven't gotten the job done yet, but it's something that we take very seriously. Regarding a couple of other bigger picture budget questions. So there was a question about American Rescue Plan funds and the reprogramming of ARPA funds. So 100.
What's those funds called again?
I'm sorry, ARPA, American Rescue Plans. When I say ARPA, ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act.
So there's some of that funding. Is it available?
There's over $300 million that the city received from the federal government last year. I'm getting there, Sam. Please let me finish. It received last year. 100% of that money was allocated last year before we got into office. So when we entered office, the amount available was
the councilman
zero.
He's not here. Took half of it. He's not here. It's okay. We got you, JB.
The amount available was zero. We are continuing. Many of the projects that money was supporting had already started. When our administration started, they're already moving. We're continuing to execute on those projects. Sam, please.
She said something.
I got you. I just want to make sure everybody can hear. Okay. Many of the projects that were started with that money were already ongoing, and we're continuing to move them forward. None of them are bad projects, right? It's a lot of rec centers, parks. A big portion.
None of that is in Homewood. None of that is in Homewood. There's not a rec in Homewood.
There's not a rec center in Homewood.
Yeah, where's that? There's not.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean that it's necessarily a rec center. I think some of it's going into Homewood Field. So the Homewood Field project is partially funded with that money. Paulson Rec, which is not in Homewood but nearby, is on that list. Paulson Rec in Lincoln Leamington. So
there is no money to fix the other wreck up Chadwick Park. The mayor was just up there where they were shooting at, and some of you all up in this office was in there. So we ain't got none of that money to fix that part since we talk about wrecks, because the YMCA ain't open to the public. You gotta pay them $5 to come in. So I mean, can we get that wreck fixed since there's some money allocated for that?
not in ARPA, that doesn't mean that we don't have it elsewhere, but we can work on
Kids
it.
is down on the streets. They ain't got nowhere to go.
You go to Brookline,
They ain't got nowhere to
go to
go.
Overbrook, all those places have recreation facilities where the kids can go to.
community empowerment center across the street?
What about us?
And he got that money too, girl. He was in on that. He got that money.
Hey, but don't they go there?
They can't
So-
go there either.
Oh, they can't go
No,
there either, so
you gotta
how
have
is she
membership
getting all
there.
this funding if they can't go over there?
Because they funded it. The city's funding it.
Exactly.
I'm gonna finish answering the question about ARPA, which is doesn't represent everything, but it answers the question about what's available, right? Of that federal money, all of it was spoken for when we entered office, and that continues to be the case.
Which we know not
A slice of it is supporting day-to-day operations, which was necessary during the heat of the pandemic to make sure we didn't have to lay people off and cut services back even further. It's still bridging us for a bit of that. It's also supporting a number of projects. Again, those projects are moving. As time moves forward and as projects fall behind schedule, we can reallocate it, but right now we need to keep those projects moving. Some of them which are really important park projects or transportation projects. And then a very large chunk of it is going to supports for housing, including home ownership supports, which Kyle can talk about if anyone's interested in learning more about that, conversion and creation of new home ownership opportunities, and that is also connected to not ARPA but to the increase in support for housing programs.
You can't say that, JB, and you underlined that man and said he's dealing with the housing part. So the other day when we were in another meeting, the girl who was just sitting here had just spoke about that. How is that? How is he's doing that program? When has that ever been offered to the people here in Homewood? Because we got a lot of blighted, is that the word, blighted housing here going up and down the street. And if we got some of them houses, people can own them. If Ricky quit hovering and his sister and him quit taking it, some people can buy some of them properties and they can really use it. I ain't being smart, man. I'm being honest. But you just said this man is doing that project, so he's getting some of that funding. How is that? How can you offer that to this community?
Sure.
So people can buy them houses?
None of that money has started moving out the door yet. So it's coming soon. So it's not like it's happening somewhere else and not here. It's about to launch, and I'll let Kyle talk about it for a bit.
Thank you, Kyle.
Yeah, we just adopted guidelines for the program to help. Sorry, we just adopted guidelines for the program to help, offset the cost, for exactly what you're talking about, Sam. Those, we need to finish an agreement with the city, between the city and the URA, so the hope is in the next month or two that'll go live. So as soon as that does, we'll make sure to push that information out so that everyone has it.
I'm sorry, Mr.
It'll be available to everybody across the city. It's not going to be exactly targeted anywhere, but I think to exactly your point, we just need to make sure and push that out so that everyone is aware and can start to apply for it.
Hold on, I am totally confused. Is this for scattered site development?
There'll be resources available for individual homeowners to access in order to be able to buy properties, renovate properties in the communities.
And scattered site?
Yeah, yes.
What about non-homeowners? Most people in Homewood rent and they don't have access to be able to buy these properties if they're non-homeowners. What about most of the people that live here?
There's rental programs that'll be coming online.
I know, but to maybe get these property, open up these properties to people who don't necessarily already own property here, but would
in order to be able to buy the property.
Yes.
Yeah, JP talked a little bit about some of the changes that we're going to be making within the law department to be able to move the properties through the process more quickly. As you know, we don't have to sort of belabor that point. It takes an incredibly long amount of time.
It does.
For it to happen right now. So we're putting resources towards that, both from a staff standpoint and for moving through title work.
I don't think you all heard this gentleman. He had said something though back there.
I just wonder how that information is going to be pushed out so that people in Homewood will have equal access to the purchase of those.
Thank you for watching this video of Pittsburgh Events. To watch this video again or any other video from Pittsburgh Events, you can go to the YouTube channel. It's 18 Ricco. It's youtube.com/18RICCO. Again, thank you for watching, and you can check out this video and any other video from Pittsburgh Events and many other videos that didn't make it on TV.
Yeah, it's not live yet, but once we have a timeline on that, I'll be able to answer that directly. The URA, the folks at the Redevelopment Authority are working to schedule a resource fair probably sometime in November that'll be in the community, and we'll make sure that information is put out through a multitude of channels, both flyering, some of the suggestions that were made tonight, in addition to Facebook groups, et cetera.
So,
Rent to buy would be school in your program?
I can't hear you.
Rent to buy.
Rent to buy, because people don't have the money like you're saying.
Sure. There's not a direct rent to buy option right now. It doesn't mean it's not something that we can add. There is significant resources through the HOF for down payment and closing cost assistance to help get, fill some of the gaps on that. And then, the programs that we have available, for offsetting their grants to help fill some of those gaps on the
That's
cost.
the reason why they got the job.
So
Thank you.
I want to add one other thing on this topic, which I think was, I think it was Randall's question, but whoever it was, somebody raised the question about the revenue created from the realty transfer tax
That was
and that
Randall's.
being dedicated to housing assistance. That's in fact exactly what we're doing here, right? The tax was raised in order to create more funding for housing, and then the transfers from that new revenue were capped at $10 million a year, even though the tax is raising more than that. So we're gradually increasing the amount of the transfer to reflect the fact that the intent of the increase was to make more resources available for housing. And so we want to close the gap between what's coming in that funding source and what's going to housing, and put more of that money on the street to do exactly the same kind of things Kyle was just talking about. Let's see, a couple other, I'm going to go with the other, there were a couple questions that are not in fact about city services, but I still want to answer them, but I'm going to hold those to the end. There were two big questions that we, of course, got to tackle. One was Kathy's question about the parks tax. So the parks tax was established a couple of years ago to generate new resources to support investments in the city's parks, in particular the non-regional parks. When I say regional parks, we have 5 big parks in Pittsburgh. They get their own separate funding from the sales tax. Emerald View Park, Shenley Park, Frick Park, Riverview Park, and which one am I missing? Highland Park. Thank you. So those 5 parks get regional funding for major improvements, and they get that in the form of big projects. We get that in the form of money to maintain them. That's part of the reason that we all pay an extra 1% sales tax in Allegheny County. Our non-regional parks don't have that kind of additional support. And so, a campaign was undertaken to establish a parks tax, to increase investment in neighborhood parks, smaller ones, playgrounds, parklets, things of that nature. Those assets right here in this community. The unfortunate reality of the situation is that a couple decades ago, when the city went into Act 47, there was another question about why we're still paying the cost of that today. We absolutely are paying the cost of that today in a number of ways, because what happened is we cut our ability to deliver basic services all the way to the bone and past while we were basically in bankruptcy in order to balance the books. And a couple of years ago, the books got back into balance. We left financial oversight, which was helpful in our ability to take back control of our own spending and our own budgets as a city. But we haven't rebuilt our ability to deliver basic services. We haven't rebuilt our ability to do basic maintenance in our non-regional parks. The RAD money helps us, keep those 5 major parks in good working order and beautiful, because we've got other funding coming in. But I don't need to tell anybody in this room that the city has done a bad job of maintaining your local playgrounds, your local parks, and other things like that throughout the city. So the simple fact of the matter is that in order to do our job as municipal government and focus on our basic core services, we need to rebuild our capacity to do that basic maintenance. And that does mean vehicles and equipment and staff hours and resources for the people who go out and cut the grass at local playgrounds and who do that work. So I'm hopeful that we're going to reach a point where we have rebuilt that basic ability to do our job, and that we can then increasingly shift the funds from that source to bigger and more ambitious things. But right now it would be a disservice, in my opinion, to continue to not maintain at a basic level our playgrounds with our staff and then put the money elsewhere. So the reason for our proposal there is simple. We need to recover what we lost when we cut our ability to do that work to the bone.
Jake, did you ever think about doing it half and half? Because when we went after this money from people, we didn't tell them we were fixing equipment. We told them we were fixing the parks and the playgrounds for their children to play in. And I understand, I'm a homeowner, I understand maintenance. But do you have to put the first year of it in total maintenance? Because we've got playgrounds in the low black and brown communities that our children cannot play in.
Yeah, it's not going 100%. Miss Ann, I do appreciate the point of your question. It's not going 100% to maintenance. It is going to capital improvements as well. It's going to capital improvements that the city is planning to conduct ourselves. And Dave, if you don't mind, I think if you want to give a couple like examples of what that would look like. All right, sure. All right, you know, I'll look at it myself rather than having you.
But ain't capital maintenance though? I mean, long-term improvements would be maintenance though.
Here, I'll just, you can speak to that point.
Long-term improvement means I'm gonna take care
So
of
PPC can probably speak to this better than I can, because they did an excellent job of reaching out to the community and figuring out what the priorities are when it comes to parks, right? One of the major pieces of feedback that they got, I think the biggest one actually, is ongoing maintenance of existing facilities as a priority as opposed to investing in brand new facilities. So that's something that we're putting into action through what Jake was talking about in regards to the vehicles you need to be able to carry the trash away, to be able to do tree work and things like that, and all the new staff and equipment that comes along with that. So we actually are following the will of the community by prioritizing maintenance first, but there's also some larger capital projects we're using these funds for as well.
And to that point, I did just pull it up. I mean, roughly about a third of the discrete projects that we'd be undertaking with those funds are capital investments in rebuilding or adding to parks. That's in the number of them by value. It's probably about half of them. So we are investing both in physical improvements as well as our capacity to do maintenance. But we're doing it within the city in order to rebuild our ability to do that core work. The other question that came up was the question of food justice. You know, this is frankly a difficult topic, right? I understand and sympathize with the urgency of that need, and I should point out it is an area that the city does invest in largely from that community development block grant slice of the budget, which was on the screen, because support for food services is one of the highest ranked eligible uses for CDBG funds. So that's an area that we have supported in the past with our CDBG funds. We're continuing to, and in fact looking to grow our support there. We're also in the operating budget, didn't make the slides because it seems like a small thing, but actually in light of that question, it's probably worth pointing out. We're investing in more staffing and better wages for our Parks and Rec staff, many of whom are the ones who deliver our summer food programs and our after-school food programs. So we're investing in a living wage and a respectful, dignified wage for the folks who provide that food to our kids. We'd love to increase the amount that we can spend on food. I don't see at the moment, for a reason I answered earlier, how we could do that from ARPA specifically, but that doesn't mean we can't find ways to better invest in our food economy in the city, and it is a top priority. Go ahead.
And there are two new farmers. The budget reflects, I don't know quite how to put this, taking things that about our parks and putting them into parks, and so we have two new farmers. And then I think something else that people will like, and I'm excited about, is that we took the farmers markets out of special events, which was over in public safety, and pulled that over into parks where the farmers are and where the kids' activities are and the art carts are, and asked them to really reevaluate where these farmers markets are, because some farmers markets are terrific, right? And they tend to be the ones that are maybe in affluent neighborhoods, or maybe just positioned between an affluent neighborhood or a less affluent neighborhood. I'm on the north side, that's how mine works. There's people who are coming from the part of the north side that's not very affluent and the part that's affluent, and so what that means is that the farmers want to go there. So we've asked
parks to really think, because farmers markets are such an important part of how people get fresh food, to think about how we're locating those, to think about making rules that say, well, if you come to, you know, the one in an affluent neighborhood, you gotta go to the one there. And I think we're gonna see much more vibrant farmers markets and then farmers, so that people who decide that they are gonna do some urban farming have supports and maybe, you know, even some mulch.
Or is that free food? I'm sorry, is that free food that you're saying? Or
At the farmers market?
With the farmers markets, are they free foods?
No, but
That doesn't have anything to do with funding for free food.
And is there a farmer, I'm just asking, I know you said the north side. Is there a farmer's market in Homewood at all? Where is it at?
Sankofa, and also it used to be a House of Man.
So there's nothing in the House of Man.
So I'm gonna answer this question, I'll come in a second. The closest, I believe, right now, the closest city-run farmer's market is in East Liberty in one of the big parking lots. There are some non-city run ones that operate here. What Lisa is pointing to is that we've asked, we've given the charge now to the Department of Parks and Recreation, which works a lot more closely with folks in community using our healthy active living centers and our senior centers to identify if we need to move them around, what we can do to make them more robust.
Okay, my question is, you said there's still money there, funding to give out to the communities, correct, for Homewood?
I said that there are funds that are already in the budget through our CDBG program that are around food security. It's not unallocated.
I'm not talking about food, I'm talking about the whole budget.
The whole thing isn't finalized yet, so we can still make changes. That's why we're here to hear from you.
You have money to finalize, put something in Homewood. That's what I'm trying to find.
I guess I want to be clear.
I want to be clear.
The current proposal uses 100% of the money that's available. There's no unallocated portion. But we can move things around before we do a final submission. So that's why I want to hear your ideas.
Okay, here's the other thing. You had a lady that was supposed to do a survey, okay? Is she gonna do a survey within Homewood to find out what the people actually want in Homewood? With the money that you said you could move around to put something in Homewood so we can look like East Liberty? Because they can sit on the sidewalk, you know, eat, you can't go in Homewood and sit on the sidewalk and eat.
And they walk right over there behind
And they
Three
walk wherever
Rivers
they want.
and get free food. I mean, I'm just saying, it's really bad over there. I mean, if you guys ain't drove past the House of Manna any day, JB, y'all gotta drive through there. All in the back of there, where Miss Lucille was at. Miss Lucille's trying to do a thing. The House of Manna is a crack spot. I mean, people is really much. I seen someone eating out of the trash can. Like, it's really, really bad. I know what you guys are talking about, but when we talk about the pink elephant in the room, there's some serious issues. You talk about a farmer's market. This young lady just told me where this farmer's market is at. These people ain't going there, and they really and truly need something.
Yeah, look, I don't want to get off topic, right? Like, I hear what you're saying. We're answering the question. We're talking about the things that the funds we have available and the way we can deploy them to improve food access. It's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect.
You say you got a way of deploying them. Tell me how you're going to deploy it.
You've had a lot of time at the mic.
How can we get the proposal to you all? Because we want, that's what the question. You said you got funds, way of deploying it. Don't say me. He said there was ways that he can put the money out there. Tell me how you going to do that. So we can, because she wants to know. That's what she's asking.
Yeah.
How can you get the money out there?
No, what I'm saying is we currently have funds in the CDBG budget that support food access programs across the city.
No. How can you get the funds out there so that people can apply for that grant?
Yeah, it's not an application-based system. That's what I'm trying to say.
That's what she was trying to add.
It supports our existing food programs for seniors, for children, as an after-school support, as a summertime food support. It's not an application-based program. Most of what we do is not grant-based, application-based. It's direct support.
How do you get?
Thanks for watching the video. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so I can bring you more videos on subjects like this and many other topics. Please leave any comments in the comment section. Any questions or comments, I'll get back to them as soon as I possibly can. Thanks a lot for watching. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.